But our next speaker and our next topic will be a bit different. We'll talk about how hackers can use your own systems against you. Basically, it's inviting someone in your kitchen and seeing how they are cooking up trouble with your pots and pans in their hands. And this story will be told us by a person who has more than 20 years experience in the IT industry, in the telecom and security, who's blending, I think, both the academia and the industry together. Please welcome Dr. Catalin Alexandru MITREA. The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here in this lovely city, Riga, and to be part of this prestigious event as cyberchess. My name is Catalin Mitrea. I'm a sales engineer at Bitdefender. Bitdefender is a global, worldwide company which is located in Europe, in Bucharest, actually, Romania. Today's topic, you'll find it very interesting because I also have a very interesting use case, a real use case that happened on a real customer, right? In the Middle East, it's a health company which was infected with ransomware, and the attackers leveraged this kind of living on the land techniques, right? So what's up with this kind of techniques, right? These are actually tools, scripts, libraries which are part by default on all the operating system, right? I talk about Windows, Linux, Mac OS, whatever you can think there. Each of the operating system, by default, they come with this kind of tools, right? And essentially, they should be used for good purposes, not for malicious purposes, right? So what happened, actually, and this is actually the result of research made by Bitdefender in the last years, they actually analyzed with the help of Bitdefender Labs, which is an essential part of Bitdefender. We also took in consideration and we collaborated with our MDR SOC team, and they actually analyzed more than 500,000 of real incidents happening there, right? And they come up with some numbers, and they figure out that, for example, more than 80% of the major incidents, right, which are, were investigated, are using this kind of living of the land attack techniques. These are actually, again, these are techniques which, where the attackers basically, they are leveraging existing tools which are part of that operating system, right? Which are part are existing on that machine. If you check what this guy says, like Blastaback group, I don't know, it's something that, I mean, we found it on dark web monitoring, right? They say that if we use standard utilities, we won't be detected. We never drop tools on those machines. So the trend changed, actually, right? What happens these days, attackers, they stop to use malicious files. They don't use malicious scripts anymore, right? Because this attracts attention. It's more or less any AV solution that is there, it will be able to detect, somehow a malicious file. It will be able to detect malicious scripts. But if you use this kind of techniques, it's very, very difficult to detect them, right? There is no detection happening there. It's about behavior. And even behavior is very tricky because if you check the logs, if you check the audit information, it feels like a real admin, IT guy performed the task there, right? Now, why these kind of attacks are also very dangerous, it can be easily used in all the attack phases, right? And also this creates, if you think about, a lot of unnecessary attack surface, right? These are basically tools that can be used, but in reality, we found out that they are not needed on those machines for most of the users. Just a few small parts of admins, for example, they are using specific tools, but the rest of 99% of the tools, they are not used. But again, they are part and deployed by default on the operating system, right? So again, these are very, very flexible, very viable to reuse on different attack phases. Can be used for reconnaissance, for example. They can be used for initial access, lateral movement. And I have a very interesting use case that I will show you today. It's about a ransomware use case that affected the company, and the attackers, they were very, very smart. They only leverage this kind of attacks techniques. Right? Now, what are the most commonly used binaries? And these are just some of them, right? You can see that then there are many binaries, scripts, which are part of all the operating system there, right? And the reality is that these kind of tools can be easily used by the attackers. And I'm just giving you some examples. I mean, there are tools here that most of the IT guys don't know what they do, right? But just put a question, I mean, the attackers, they know what they can do with a specific tool, right? For example, PowerShell is being used for more than by more than 80% of the companies to perform a variety of administrative tasks. But I can tell you that, for example, PowerShell in a company, right? You have like HR department, R&D department, production department, developing department, whatever. For example, in HR department, right? We realize that most of the user, the group, the HR doesn't use PowerShell, but it's by default part of those operating systems, right? It's available there. So what the attackers can try, actually, they will try to infiltrate somehow or use that PowerShell tools, PowerShell, let's say, tool which is available there, right? To perform some damage, to infiltrate somehow, to do something, right? So for example, PowerShell is used by cyber criminals to execute files, malware in memory. They can do actually a lot of stuff. They can harm a lot with this kind of tools. But not only PowerShell. There are, for example, C-script, right? C-script, if you ask the IT guys, they will say, what is C-script? We don't know. I mean, by the name, you can think about what's the purpose. But in reality, just a few people know that that can be also used to perform different tasks on Windows machines. I'm talking about Windows now, right? But this can be easily applied to other operating systems, Linux and macOS, right? So all these kind of tools are available by default there. Their nature, it's not malicious, right? But the attackers actually, they find out ways to leverage that to perform damage. Now, this is about a shrink locker. This is a ransomware use case, which was discovered actually last year. Bitdefender help of organization with our threat intel, our experts to find out what happened. So it's about the Middle East health organization from there. It's enterprise level, so a few thousand of endpoints, right? And in this specific ransomware use case, you will see that the attackers managed to use only living on the land attacks techniques, right? We think that initial access happened through contractor laptops, right? So again, this is also, I mean, just make up some brackets here. Supply chain security, it's also another part, and it's very important, which most of the customers, they tend to, let's say, neglect it, right? So it's very important. Bitdefender has solution also for this. We can talk up after during the event. But let's move forward with this specific ransomware use case. Again, this is a real use case, and this is the output explained somehow simply that, I mean, is the result of our investigation, of Bitdefender investigation, right? So using that contractor laptop, which was managed or unmanaged, we are not sure yet, and the attacker was able to use some stole credentials actually to access the domain controller, right? Lateral movement happened here. So what was the next steps? They actually started to modify domain policies and deploy scripts to a shared location. If you think about it, they use VB-script, right? So VB-script, again, it's something that, I don't know if it's still used. It's old technology. Microsoft wants to retire, is it? But they say that, okay, we cannot do that because it's still used by some applications, right? So VB-script is very old technology. The code that was written there, it's actually something 10 years old, right? Which had good intention, right? It was used by the admin on that machine. So what happened further? We talk manage endpoints here, right? Group policy, creative schedule task on all the domains machines. Again, if you think about it, nothing malicious till now from an audit point of view. Nothing was downloaded, no script, no malicious script was executed, right? Everything was reused from what was existing there. So what happened further? The scheduled task executed the scripts, right, using VB script, and at this time, just look a little bit. They actually reset BitLocker encryption, right? So those machines were actually protected with BitLocker encryption. So by simply changing the encryption keys of the existing, infrastructure there, on the existing infrastructure, they changed it actually with some pseudo-random keys, which were sent to the command and control location server, right? Again, what happened next? You have machines which are where the encryption were changed, right? Basically, when the machines rebooted, the victims, they could see the claim, the ransomware claim. Hey, contact this address if you want to regain access to your machines. Again, if you look about and you check this attack, which was delivered successfully, right? Everything was executed, clean. Everything was clean. And it's amazing how they can do that without actually leaving any traces. Imagine it's like you rob a bank and the bank doesn't know that was rape, right? It will see later. So they actually managed to do that in such a smart way that it didn't attract attention at all. Nothing was downloaded again. They didn't use any fancy encryption algorithms, right? Encryption techniques to do that. They just simply and smartly changed the encryption keys from BitLocker, which was already deployed there, right? So it looks easy, it's very clean, and again, it doesn't attract attention, right? They don't need to do any to download any payload and so on. So for us, it was like, okay, we realized that this is a trend, and we need to find out ways to defend against this. Right? Now, if we move forward, what makes actually this kind of attacks techniques so dangerous? These are actually very flexible techniques. I was saying that can be used during all the attack phases, like from initial reconnaissance, scanning, brute force, lateral movement, even encryption, right? As I was showing you the case with BitLocker. It uses, as you can see here, it uses legitimate tools which are signed by the operating system. That's very tricky, right? It's not easy to detect this kind of attacks techniques. You have to look on different parts, like, okay, what's the behavior? And even the behavior can be legitimate, right? Even if you have, for example, SOC teams which are monitoring your organization, even for them it's very tricky to detect this. For example, I can tell you that with managed detection and response capabilities, the SOC team will actually have to perform threat hunting activities. Even the organization looks clean, they will perform these scheduled threat hunting activities just to see if something abnormal is seen there, right? Because they can compare with the baseline created for that organization, and if something changes, deviates from normality, they will be able to dig further, right? So again, I don't know if you notice the wolf here, right? It's like it's easy like that. It's easy to not to see it, right? These are actually how the living on the land techniques operate, right? Very dangerous again, very easy to flexible to use them in all the attack phases, and are very difficult to be detected. And it can create a lot of damage with actually not investing maybe too much effort in doing that. Now, what are the, let's say, some effective security, what are the best practices to defend against this kind of techniques, right? For example, you should use this kind of strict application to restrict access to a specific system and give rights only enough to perform the duty and the task there, nothing more, right? Implement defense in depth. So it's not only about having a good detection system, for example. You need to take in consideration proactive techniques for hardening systems, for example, right? Hardening, most of the times, it's somehow neglected by the customers, but it's a very important step of cybersecurity. Harden, close all the windows and doors if you don't need them, right? Don't leave anything open unnecessarily. It's about hardening, but it's also about detection, and at the end of the day, it's the best effort that you can think about, right? So it's not, you don't have only endpoints these days. You have mobile security, you have email infrastructure, cloud tenants, cloud applications, social media, right? All this actually creates a lot of attack surface, and you have to address each of them, right? It's not just enough to focus on a direction and not take in consideration the rest of infrastructure. Segment your network. It looks like, I don't know, very simple statement here, but it's a very strong one. So the idea is that to limit, for example, and somehow restrict lateral movement, right? To move from one endpoint to another endpoint, move from mobile devices to a server, right? Then to the cloud. You need to have some sort of limitations here in that sense, right? And of course, training is still one of the most important part for security, right? You need to train the employees. It's always a lot of effort conducted in that sense. At the end of the day, it's just a matter to try to have the best protection and detection, train the employees, right? At the end of the day, nothing is perfect, so it's just the best effort you have to involve and add it to your infrastructure. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the, there is, from the room here on the first row? Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah.
So your headline is when your tools are going to be used against you. So for a bad actor to get where they get there now, would you agree or disagree? It starts maybe sometimes with, say, HR teams who are posting the job applications, like specifically say, oh, we are using this and this and this, we're looking for junior and that, and then the bad actor, this is how we can get.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily, but you know, during a classical attack, that part with reconnaissance and scanning, making your research on the victim, right? Let's say this is a targeted attack. During a targeted attack, let's say a spear phishing, right? During this, to have success with that targeted attack, you need to do some research on that organization, and the research takes like 3 to 4 months. A time when they will scan your public-facing assets, right? Like domain IPs that you use. What is the infrastructure that you have in the backend? Do you use any web servers or databases that can be somehow leveraged? Are there any vulnerabilities there, right? All this kind of information, including social media, right? They will check social media, say, okay, what the HR is posting there. Can I use any information that is posted there, right? If they can use that one, they will definitely use it, right? So it's very important what you put there also, right? As details about the infrastructure or details about the, we have a new, for example, we have a new position, it's DevOps, and they will work with this infrastructure, and you give the details of the infrastructure, right version, they will use that. They will check, okay, they have next generation, I don't know, web service or some elastic database. What are the vulnerabilities that they have there, right? Can I use that one to infiltrate? Can I use to perform, to do some damage? It's simple as that, right? So this part with public-facing assets and how much information you expose to publicly is also very important. It's critical most of the times, right?
Okay.
But we talk only about the small part, which is the initial reconnaissance. Yeah, good question. Yeah. Thank you.
We have, yes, we have another speaker.
Hello, thank you for presentation and for scary scenario. Just technical question about, if you can disclose, please disclose. If not, say not. But technically, when this happened, a long time ago, or it was quite
last year.
So that means
2024.
last year. But in other hand, all the laptops have TPM card, and usually BitLocker credentials that master is kept in TPM. So we want to say that it's so easy by group policy to get hacked into TPM.
I don't know exactly. I don't have this kind of details, but that's a real situation. It happened like that. We still don't know all the details, to be honest. I mean, we are still discovering some new stuff that happened there. But what I presented here is, as you can imagine, it's just the high-level view of what we think it happened.
I understand,
yeah.
but that's why I say this story is very scary. If it's without any antivirus or whatever agent identification, you can just go and do something in DPM, which is treated as quite secure way. Place to store BitLocker.
But think about now. They had this kind of admin credentials. They were stolen, maybe most probably from somewhere. So if you have admin credentials, you can do whatever you want in more or less in that infrastructure, right? With some comments, with some So. Yeah, I think it's a very smart way to perform damage, right? Without actually attracting too much attention about that. Ideally, I mean, nobody should know about, I mean, the victim company will not know anything until the machine reboots, and that's a shock. So what happened, right? So they were managed. So everything was managed. They encrypt. You may think like, okay, BitLocker, it's good to have it, right? And you feel like you're sleeping very well during the night because the machines are encrypted with BitLocker. So this can happen. Yeah. Yes.
So we have a few questions online as well that I can ask. So first of all, how do you protect your default programs, like PowerShell, CUS host, from executing custom scripts? Is there any software for signing or registering scripts, and only those that are allowed to execute?
Yeah, we have, I mean, we can talk after the presentation. Bitdefender has solutions for this, and we actually launched some months ago a new technology, is machine learning, but was specifically designed for this kind of attack techniques, right? And not only living off the land, but can also handle hacking tools, remote tools, crypto miners as well, right? Crypto miners, for example, they are essentially not malicious, if you think about that, right? But we have, for example, I can share with you, we had a very interesting use case with a large university in Europe. They deployed our solution, and they found out that most of the machines are infected with crypto miners. They didn't know about that. There were students' machine, teachers' machine as well, laptops, and everything was infected with crypto miners. They were complaining like, hey, we don't know what is happening because the machines are very slow.
So right? You think twice between deploying your products. You might not like what you see at the end.
Yeah, we have solutions for that, and we can discuss in private after that.
Yeah.
You'll find it very interesting.
Outside, outside the room.
We can gladly talk about that.
And a final question online is, what about the living of the land attacks in Mac operation systems?
Yeah, for now we handle Windows, but next month or this month we will also have support for macOS and Linux operating system fully. Yeah. Okay. So we focused in the first phase on Windows because Windows is still one of the most targeted, but trends are changing. I mean, macOS also, it's started to be very, very attractive for threat actors, and Linux as well, right? So we are actually handling we'll handle all the operating system, right?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Again, you have also now the lucky owner of the CyberChess socks.
This is what I came here.
Yes.
Thank you.
And there's an extra thing. There's also candies inside that look like the chess figures as well.
Yeah,
so
great.
This is something to get you back as well for the next year. So thank you for the interesting presentation.
Have a nice day.